Councillor Davis, how are you?
Are you ready, Helen? Right, welcome to tonight's meeting of Burnside Council being held in the Civic Centre, our temporary meeting location that allows for appropriate social distancing. Welcome to those viewing via live stream, and I remind them that the agenda can be located on the Council's website. Firstly, a reminder that the usual meeting etiquette and protocols apply in addition to mandated procedural meeting requirements. You'll be able to see the minutes in progress on your individual screens via the Zoom link sent to you this afternoon. We will be using show of hands to indicate your desire to withdraw an item to gain my attention or to speak. I ask you to raise your hand high so that I can see it for voting as well. Our CEO will support me in identifying the order of speaking and to ensure fairness and equity for all. It will be appreciated by all here and by those viewing from home that you speak clearly only when asked or required to do so, remembering that your comments and remarks may be heard when you are not officially debating. Please show appropriate etiquette and respect for each speaker. For your information, the toilets are in the rear towards the dean room, and in case of a fire or emergency, please take instructions from staff present. Before we begin, I ask you to turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent. And please now stand for the opening acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land that we meet on is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We also pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We pray for understanding and guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Thank you. Please be seated. Right, we have item 3, we do have one apology. Councillor Hughes is absent through illness. Identification of conflicts of interest, are there any, please? Nil. Leave of absence, we have a leave of absence request by Councillor Hubel. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Davis. Second, I think, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Carried. No. Confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover for the confirmation of minutes or any alterations that are required. Councillor Dawes, moving. Councillor Turnbull, seconding. All those in favour? Carried. There are no deputations, petitions or public question time tonight. There are questions on notice and you should have received the answers to those questions prior to the meeting. There are no motions on notice tonight. Are there any questions without notice? Motions without notice, I've not received any, so we'll move on to reports of officers and I'll go through these and seek someone to withdraw one at a time. So, 14.1, Councillor Davey. 14.2, Councillor Lemon. 14.3, no one, so I seek
And I thank the CEO for his report, very detailed report and research that he did on allowing us to, or the justification for us to move back to the chamber for our council meetings. I think it says it all. I think it will be very timely for us to move back to the chamber and resume our life there. So I hope you'll all support this.
Seek a seconder. Councillor Davis.
Is that a question? Resulting in comments from one of the elected members contrary to our media policy, can the administration please explain what the costs were? Because that wasn't put out by the elected member who commented.
Throw in, mate. If I get Mr. Spearman, just put on some insight there.
Thank you for the question. So the system that we have is a proprietary system. If any of our IT officers, for example, went and handled it or tried to fiddle with it, we will void our warranty and our support maintenance. The breakdown of costs requires a number of things. For example, we need to add another distribution amplifier to spread out the distance of the equipment because it's in a daisy chain setup. So that's going to require additional cost there. The bulk of the cost is because we need two of the actual qualified and trained technicians to be there for a full day each. So you're looking at 16 hours of technician work to go through the recabling, the reprogramming of the system in terms of the coding and the way the system works, as well as the commissioning and testing of the equipment.
Does that sufficiently answer your question, Councillor Davis?
I have another question. Was the administration approached about this? And did the administration, were they approached by elected members to explain the costs and why it was?
That's right, Mayor. We were approached by the media earlier today. The general comment was sought, but I wasn't approached by elected members.
So no elected member clarified the cost or why it was necessary?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Right, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just through the Mayor, just wanted to clarify, and I'm sure it's going to be in there, but in the policy that's going to be amended, I guess raising our awareness, education, reminding us that if we have a cold or something and, just that's, you don't turn up to the chamber. So just that communication with all parties that if we're feeling unwell not to attend, is that going to be part of the plan?
It's really, Madam Mayor, we've got a current number of protocols that are in place. They won't form a policy, but we will continue to provide them information to elected members and anybody else attending the chamber as a matter of course.
Very good. Yeah, I just don't feel like getting a COVID test again because it was unpleasant.
Fair point.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? And Councillor Davis, you only ask questions or are you wishing to speak?
No, I won't speak.
No. If there is no one else who wishes to speak, Councillor Piggett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the assistance given to us by the IT team, particularly myself, because I was having hearing problems, the acoustics stuff. And Matt and Helen have been so caring and careful with us and loading special earphones, etc. So thank you to them. We hear a lot of EM stuff about jewels of the crown in Burnside. I reckon they are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. So anyone else now who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I will give it back to Councillor Davey. You didn't want to speak, Councillor Davis?
No.
Okay. Councillor Davey then.
Thank you. I'll just briefly sum up to say most of the other metropolitan councils are now back in their chambers and having physical meetings. And I think in terms of the audio and ability for us, because I like Councillor Turnbull has had trouble with the hearing despite the best efforts of our IT teams. It'll be really good to get back to our chamber and facilitate council meetings that way. So I hope you'll support this.
Right, those in favour? Those against?
Division.
Oh, really?
Division's been called, so those in favour, please stand.
No, when you make comments to the media about it, get locked off. There it was.
Right, Councillor Henschke, Cornish, Davey, Piggett, Davis,
We've got members who can't hear.
Lemon, Carbone, Turnbull, Dawes. And against, Councillor Jones. Right, we now move to 14.2, Councillor Lemon.
Yes, thank you. This had to be pulled anyhow.
Oh, yes, can I just make a suggestion too, that we actually divide this into two parts?
Please. And I'm happy for the CEO to run this, actually, rather than me. I just pulled it because
Yeah,
there was
because
no
we have
comment.
to, yeah. So my suggestion, what's been suggested to me, is that we actually run it in two parts. That is part 1 and part 2 first, and then part 3, and then if necessary, part 4.
Okay.
Councillor,
Yeah, I'll move 1 and 2.
you happy to move 1 and 2? Seconded by Councillor Davey.
Well, okay.
Okay, I'll give you the 3 and 4.
No, but, okay.
Yeah, let
Alright.
me do the other.
So all those in
You need to do
favour
the
of
comments.
Yeah,
one,
we
the
move on.
council 1 and 2?
Do you
Against?
need to have it seconded?
Sorry.
Oh, well.
We've done that, we did that, okay. So now, Councillor Lemon, would you like to move point 3?
Or do we?
Well, we need to.
Oh, no, we need to call for names.
Applications.
We need to call for nominations for those who wish to be on the selection committee.
So I'd like
Councillor-
to, I'd like to nominate Councillor Piggett,
Councillor
and I'd
Piggott,
like to nominate myself.
both?
Well, no, there's only one of me.
No, you're nominating Councillor
Oh,
Piggott
both
and
of us, yes.
Councillor
Thank
Lemon. Okay, thank you. Right, is there anyone else who wishes to nominate?
You're worth 2, Helga.
Councillor, I'm assuming, of course, both of those people are willing to
I'm
accept.
willing and keen.
Okay.
Helga, you willing?
Yes.
Councillor Turnbull, you would like to as well? Is there anyone else who wishes to put their hand up forward for this? Councillor Dawes. Right, so we have 4 names and they all accept their nomination. So we'll need to go to a vote. You've got voting papers, I believe, or someone has somewhere. We're running out of 2 names. Two names. It's 2 names, isn't it? They write down 2 names? Yeah. No particular order, just 2 names. Yes.
So just for clarity, through Madam Mayor, just for clarity, elected members, you're required to write 2 names on your ballot paper. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll just ask you, there's not, it's not a paid position, but do we want somebody to actually make a statement first? Okay. I would put it to the chamber. Do you wish to hear each of the candidates make a statement, up to a minute, explaining why they would like to be on this committee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's just it's an election thing.
It's a selection.
Yeah, it's a selection panel.
Well, I'm
We
seeking
could.
guidance from the chair, from all of you.
I vote no.
How would you like to do it? I mean, to be fair, we've got 4 people, we've got to narrow it down to 2, so if it's appropriate, well, I think maybe we ought to hear something from each of them. It doesn't have to be very long.
We're in your hands.
You happy for me to make the call? Well, then I'll make the call, because I think that
No,
makes
no,
it
absolutely.
equal for all.
We're with you.
And are you okay if I take it alphabetically backwards,
Sure.
just for a change?
Can't we just go
Usually
around
do
the room?
alphabetically forwards, but, so that means we would start with Turnbull.
Yep. I hated that at school.
Councillor Turnbull.
I would quite like to nominate, because I was on the committee last year, found it really interesting to interview the people who had put their names forward. was pretty hard really to decide. No other reason except I've been reading up about Pineview in the last week, and that was a really terrific workshop. So I know more now, and I think I'll be able to make more of a contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Second one is Councillor Piggett.
Hi. Look, I'm actually keen to do this, although I seem to be making a bit of a hobby of getting on these selection panels. I think I do work well on selection panels. I think I do know what to look for. BRSI is another one of perhaps a sleeper, I guess, in regard to its important asset. And it is something that council should be very proactive in looking after. And the way we can do that is getting the right people on the board. So it is an important task. I think I do have the credentials to work well in it, and I seek your support.
Right, Councillor Lemon.
Thank you. I've been on the last two panels for board members for this particular organisation, BSRI, and I particularly want to be on this for a number of reasons. One is I've never been a board member. When I was a councillor, when I first started in 2010, it was traditional for the local councillors to be on that board, and I wasn't. So I feel that I have no conflicts whatsoever in terms of choosing someone that is completely independent and appropriate at that level to work as a board member. I have a couple of times represented residents who have been somewhat disgruntled with some of the board decisions. So I've been very happy that I wasn't a board member, because that meant I could be a ward councillor for those residents that live in Pineview. It is in my ward. I think it is a very important, it distresses me somewhat that we're losing two board members at once. And I think it's very important that we choose really good people for this board, because they will be there for a while. This is a huge asset. We've recently had a workshop on it. This is not something that runs itself. We are, in fact, we have a duty of care to both the organisation and the residents that live within Pineview. So for that reason, I feel that I'm a good choice for the selection panel, and I hope you support me.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I did write in a couple of notes. Look, I have a wide experience on selection panels, including the CEO. Matching skill sets to personality attributes to a position is part of that experience. I'm always keen for a gender balance on any selection panel or committee, so I'd be keen to see that. And because of my maturity, I have an increasing interest in retirement service.
All right, thank you. So can you all please place two names on your green slip of paper, and then Matt will come around and collect them.
Yeah.
You hold two.
Okay. And it's not
I
like.
did bring a jacket because
Yeah.
this goes over your head.
Yeah.
You didn't look.
Of course you do. I'm the best candidate. We can go past that. Nothing about each one of them has GDP.
All right, okay, I was just calling out the votes. Councillor Lemon, 1 vote. Councillor Piggett, 1 vote. Councillor Turnbull, 1 vote. Councillor Dawes, 1 vote. Councillor Piggett, 1 vote. Councillor Lemon, 1 vote. Councillor Lemon, 1 vote. Councillor Piggett, 1 vote. Councillor Turnbull, 1 vote. Councillor Lemon, 1 vote. Councillor Piggett, 1 vote. Councillor Lemon, 1 vote. Councillor Piggett, one vote. Councillor Dawes, one vote. Councillor Dawes, one vote. Councillor Turnbull, one vote. Councillor Turnbull, one vote. Councillor Dawes, one vote. Councillor Dawes, one vote. Councillor Turnbull, one vote. Councillor Piggett, one vote. Councillor Lemon, one vote. Respond to the map.
So apparently we drop off the person with the least and then we do it again. So I've just been told.
Good morning.
So just for clarity, we have a draw for Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Dawes, both on file. So to find out who's eliminated, I will pull a name out of a hat. Clarity roll is the name that's drawn.
Drawn is and
Eliminated. Right. So the name that remains in the hat is the one that goes through.
yes.
So the name that goes through is Councillor Turnbull. Have it under control.
Other way around. So,
I was correct.
oh, you were right. So did you read that? Oh, sorry. Okay. So now we have three names, Councillor Turnbull, Councillor Lemon and Councillor Piggett. And again, you put down two names.
Can we just do rock, scissors and paper?
We're doing paper.
We're doing the paper, yeah.
Let's do it, Callum.
Can I just ask what the votes were for each?
You both got five.
Sorry,
Oh,
just for
yeah.
clarity, Councillor Lemon 6, Councillor Piggett 6, Councillor Turnbull 5, Councillor Dawes 5.
I don't know how we worked out. It's dropped down.
And this vote is,
Councillor Lemon, Councillor Piggott, Councillor Turnbull, two names again.
two names.
Two names again.
You still in?
So it's Grant.
And Helga.
Grant's
You're still in.
just for completeness.
So it shouldn't be.
That should be-
She's wrong.
Just one
There's no
name.
vote.
Makes sense, because it's 11 votes, and the reason for that is probably.
Had that before. The Daisy nominated me.
Because it's 11 votes about each condition. So it's a total of 22 votes.
And it hadn't actually been done previously.
Right,
That had been.
Madam Mayor, Councillor, just read out the ballot.
Yeah, two didn't vote.
Councillor Piggott 1, Councillor Turnbull 1. Councillor Turnbull 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Turnbull 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Piggott 1, Councillor Turnbull 1. Councillor Turnbull 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Lemon 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Lemon 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Piggott 1, Councillor Lemon 1. Councillor Lemon 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Lemon 1, Councillor Piggott 1. Councillor Turnbull 1, Councillor Lemon 1.
You got another draw?
Another draw.
Another draw?
So the numbers.
Read the numbers out.
The numbers are Councillor Piggott with 10 votes, Councillor Lemon with 6 votes, and Councillor Turnbull with 6 votes.
So it's another draw out of the hat.
Who didn't vote for Piggott?
so excluded is Councillor Turnbull. So at the next voting round.
No, that's it, it's the last two.
Sorry.
So number 4 is
I'll move
now.
that Helga and Piggott.
So Claire,
Well, no, I can move forward.
You can't vote for yourself.
Oh,
Councillor Lennon,
I mean,
Councillor.
it'd look better if we
Yeah,
It's all about the optics.
absolutely, it's all about the optics.
oh yes, the optics. Hang on.
Okay, so Councillor Lemon,
It's wrong.
you can do.
He's going to do it because it's all about the optics.
Yeah, I've got better optics.
And I'll second it.
All right, so they want a second, a third mover and seconder for number 4.
It's actually 3 and 3.
Yeah, so we're splitting up 3 and 4.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Rob.
That's all right, no. So move the fifth number 3.
Number 3 was moved by, I don't remember. Let me write it down.
Dave said Davey.
Councillor Lemon was mover and,
I thought she moved the
No.
first two.
no,
No, that was.
We actually
No,
screwed it up.
yeah.
We didn't actually move 3, but anyway.
no, we did move 3 and 4.
No, 1 and 2.
No,
No, we did.
No, you had 3 and 4 written down, didn't you? We moved
No,
3 and
it was
4.
only
Da-
1 and 2.
Dave- 1 and 2.
Dave said Davey, do 3.
1 and 2 was Councillor Davis, Councillor Davey.
And number 3?
We haven't done, no, we need to do 3 and 4.
Ah, we had to do them together, okay, apologies.
I'll
Okay,
move
so
3
Three.
and 4.
Councillor Davis is moving 3 and 4, Councillor Davey is seconding 3 and 4. With the insertion of Councillor Lemon and Councillor Piggett's names.
Correct, that's on the.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, so it's all, now I will put that to the group. To vote, please. All those in favour, of course, and those against. Carried. Right, now we move to policy review, finance and governance. We've done 14.4, Councillor Piggott.
Thank you. I actually put for an alternative recommendation that's going to be here somewhere. If I look up. Just struggling with the Zoom at the moment, so I actually haven't got it. Yeah. I've got Zoom.
No, I haven't got it either.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
Right.
move the motion for you.
yeah, I just see some technical assistance here.
We need one of those screens that pop up.
There you go. Thank you very much for 2 meetings in a row. Yeah, look, I'd like to propose a motion, which is not very much different, but it is different. The council adopt the financial delegations policy with the following amended: maximum limits per transaction excluding GST to apply. General managers to remain at the current level of $300,000. Group manager asset infrastructure to remain at the current level of $100,000. All other group managers to be $50,000. And the council adopt the fraud, corruption, misconduct and maladministration prevention policy. We were given these 2 finance policies in regard to delegations and fraud and corruption. And I've been through the audit committee and, you know, there's not a lot wrong with them. One of the proposals, however, was to actually change the delegations, the amount of money that you know, a manager can sign off without effectively requiring the person above them to sign off. And the proposal was to take it in regard to the general managers. That currently sits at $300,000, and the proposal was to make it to $500,000. Now, I don't have an issue with the quality or anything about the current general managers. However, I just do think that it's an amount above I would just like our CEO to be the final sign-off on transactions over $300,000. And for a couple of reasons, really. One is obviously the normal one. It is a big amount of money when you take out the things like depreciation and salaries and the like, which don't come into this mix. Burnside spends about $15 million of operating expenses. And so $500,000 is actually a fair chunk of $15 million. And in round terms, I understand that that's the norm going around other councils, but I don't think that's the reason to do it necessarily. And I think it's not that I feel that Martin or Barry are going to sign off $350,000 to somewhere that doesn't deserve it. Quite the opposite. But what it does do, I think, is allow our chief executive to actually see those large transactions, which might prompt all sorts of discussions. It's not necessarily not to approve it, and probably almost certainly not to approve it. However, it might prompt, if we need to do this in future, is there other ways we could do it? Is this the best way to do it? Those sorts of things. There's nothing like really having stuff like that come across your desk that just gives the CEO a bit of a prompt that, it's something that it's a big amount of money going over this organisation, and it allows him to have some input into it. And I feel the same in regard to the group managers and then applying back to the up to the general managers. I think the same is true. That's been $50,000 for, $100,000 for infrastructure, urban services. I think it was in the policy, and $50,000 for everything else. Now, there is a reason to keep, so I'm really seeking to keep the status quo there as well. I think 50 is right in general terms. Infrastructure is a bit different. There's obviously some big chunks of money going out on projects that are budgeted for, that are project managed, etc. And I don't see that's such an issue for a Michelle of the world to actually sign that off, because that has a process around it beyond what other expenses do. But I do think 50 is right for the rest of them. So I feel, and I guess, and it's probably unfair, but I just think we just need to be mindful that we are here spending ratepayers' money, and we need to give it due respect. And I just feel by maintaining the levels as they were is the right thing to do. I don't think we lose a lot in efficiency or CEO's time. And I just think it is best to err on the low side rather than high when you're talking about serious chunks of money. Even at 300,000, it's a serious chunk of money in terms of the delegations policy. So I feel that despite the recommendation, I feel we should keep the status quo, and that's what the motion is basically saying. So I see your support on the motion.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Davis, wish to speak? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Carbone and then Councillor Hitchcock.
Question, Your Worship, if I may. Only because I've been through this myself, in my professional career with limits and so forth. And there's always been this little niggling thing that I've never really quite understood.
This isn't a question.
No, it's a question. It's a question. That is, if the limit is 300, can they still sign off on something that's 500,000 but split over 2 invoices? I've never really understood how that works. So if the CEO could explain that to us.
Yeah, through and Mayor, I think the short answer is our auditors take a very dim view of people if they try to game the system. So the short answer is no. Your delegation is 300. You sign things 300 or less. It's pretty clear.
But you know where I'm coming from, but yes.
Look, and I appreciate that. In the past, in some organisations, there was propensity, and people would argue why, wherefore they're doing it. But in the last, at least 5 years, the auditors have really cracked down on manipulation of trying to, in my words, game the approval limits. And so no, won't tolerate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Hitchcock.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, will this change in financial delegation suit our operational realities? Is it workable that we keep the status quo at 300 to move forward?
Through Madam Mayor, I certainly feel it is workable. Obviously, we're currently working in this environment. There was some initial conversation about bringing the Group Manager of Assets and Infrastructure back to 50. And I did have a conversation with Councillor Piggett. Just had a conversation about the practicalities of that, and Councillor Piggett agreed that that was prudent to leave that where it was. And so I'm very comfortable with the levels that have been proposed.
Are there any, Councillor Cornish?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to support this motion as it stands. I'm all for removing bureaucracy and red tape of an organisation, and we have highly paid staff that should be accountable and responsible to actually make payments and process the paperwork at the City of Burnside. And I don't think that we need to clog up the CEO's desk with unnecessary invoices that he has to sign off on. I think, in line with salary rates that keep increasing over years, so too do delegation rates commensurate with people's responsibilities and accountabilities. If you look at the state government, they're about to do a radical change in this entire space. It's going to be something I don't think I've seen in my lifetime in terms of how they're going to remove some of the delegations and streamline processes for procurement in the state government. So I'm all for what was in the proposed changes, and I won't support the motion as it stands. However, if the motion does get up, I'd ask that 1.2 of it actually not say 100K and just actually have 100,000, if that'd be great, to comma and 3 zeros instead of 100K.
Couldn't agree more.
But yes, I won't be supporting the motion as it stands.
Okay, is there anyone else who, Councillor Dawes?
Yeah, just a question for the CEO. I see it, this policy change was endorsed by the audit committee. So we're actually going against their endorsement. Can you explain to me the reasons why the audit committee supported the increased delegations?
Through Madam Mayor, my understanding of perhaps why they improved it was presented on the basis of a review of what our peers are currently undertaking, and it was seen as an industry norm. And I think that's why perhaps they had a level of comfort in the figures that are proposed.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I am leaning towards what Councillor Cornish just said. I understand that these figures were some time ago.
You're speaking now?
You're speaking now. I'm guessing probably over 10 years. I'm not too sure when these figures were actually put down in the policy. So I would say we need to move with the times, more along what Councillor Cornish said. So, yeah, I would be supportive of the new policy as it stands.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? If there is not, I will go back to Councillor Piggott.
Yeah, thanks for that. I would like to line up with Councillor Cornish on one thing, and that is changing 100K to $100,000. Look, I think I would be surprised if it was $300,000 10 years ago, as Councillor Dawes suggests. Not perhaps that's the point. It's about what the right amount is now. I don't think it's around. It's interesting to hear about state government, stripping out all levels of bureaucracy and perhaps accountability at the same time. I don't know, but they do have the benefit of not being quite as close to their tax or ratepayers as we are, I think. And so from that point of view, I think the state government's perhaps not a good lead in it. And I would question also perhaps other local governments. We're all in this together. I feel an argument to say that or earning their money or whatever. It's around what you want your CEO to be doing. The CEO would spend far more time, I feel, or probably actually sort of fussing about sort of questions I might have in any one month, and you will, I think, signing off things between 300,000 and 500,000. So I think the fact that it's a time thing that we must save is not a good argument. It's a point of debate of what the right amount of money is. $500,000 just sounds like too much to me. It just feels too much to just not have our CEO be the final arbiter of it, and not have the opportunity to consider, go up and think about it in the shower afterwards about what that transaction was and how that might be done better in the future, if that's possible. That's what we're getting here. We're fighting, we've got a very light agenda, I get that. We're fighting over a very small point in actual fact, but I do think we should be respectful of ratepayers' money. And I think respectful is asking our CEO that anything over $300,000, he's the final sign of that. And I think that's absolutely the way to go. Thank you.
Right, those in favour? Those against? Lost. Oh, sorry, carried. Apologies, carried. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we now move on to 14.7, which is Councillor Lemon.
Don't we have 14.5?
Jane, Councillor Davis.
Oh, sorry, I missed policy review taxation. Apologies, Councillor Davey.
I think that's
It's yours. 14.5, I skipped it by mistake.
Thank you, Worship. So this is the rescission of taxation policy. I just have an additional, an addition to the officer's recommendations to become that council rescind the current taxation policy and implement the taxation and superannuation protocol. So it's just an addition. So I really thank the administration for this initiative and all the work they've done on it. I'm very happy that council formalised the new protocol. I think this is very important as it addresses some major issues: GST, the taxation equivalence regime, fringe benefits tax, payroll tax exemption, superannuation, and pay-as-you-go tax. And it's really important in terms of good prudential management and good fiscal management for us. So I think in terms of a protocol, an internal protocol, this is the way to go. So I hope you'll support that.
I have a seconder. Councillor Davis, you wish to speak? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'll go back to Councillor Davis. You wish to speak again? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now to Councillor Lemon, 14.7.
Thank you. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, but I have a problem with two of the names that have been put forward. And one of them is, and this is on page 188, one of them is 10.4 Wattle Street. And the reason that I've got an issue with that is that very close to Glenside, we have, in our legal, it says here, there are no existing roads within the city of Burnside that have this name. And this is quite true. But there is, just up the road on Fullerton Road, a very well-known Wattle Street. And I think if we name something in Glenside Wattle Street, it could be quite confusing. It'd be very easy just for us right now not to. And given, and I've been trying to think of another name for it, some other name, some other botanical name. What we could call
What about lemon? Sesame.
Acacia.
No, they've got that.
Acacia's already there.
Well, that's wattle
Which
anyway.
is wobbling.
Revelia would be a lovely one.
Revelia, but then who can spell it? No, it's easy when you think these things too. But the other problem I have, like having just looked at them, the other one I've got a problem with is 10.6 Huon. Now, Huon is actually a Tasmanian
Yes, it is.
It's not anything to do with South Australia, and it could so easily be Hoon Street. So I think that's not a good choice either. So I just think either we come up with 2 extra names tonight, or we send this back for 2 other names. I just have problems with those 2 names. Wattle for obvious reasons, and Hoon for other
It made it
obvious
like that
reasons.
giant flower, it sounds really bad.
So have we got, what about a flowering plant that is a native that we
Well, I said
have?
Revelia or a Coria.
It would be appropriate.
Oh, yeah,
It would be appropriate to send it back.
Appropriate to send it back, yes. So let's send it back. So my motion is that council requests two other names replacing 10.4 Wattle Street and 10.6 Hill.
So we just need to add that as part of the officer's recommendation. Can you fix something like that when you're now? Oh, yeah.
Change the start really because it talks about community consultations. So we'd have to-
Yeah, and we'll delete Human out of the original. And Wattle. And I thought it was a bit silly to have Wattle and Acacia when they're both the same thing.
So we won't do
Mind you, I
community
don't think
consultation
that
until we get the next
Rosa
two.
Daly or either, that's
No.
So we'll do-
So this will come back
Okay,
to us.
I need a seconder.
Oh, can I just also
motion.
say that this will come back to us
Yes,
in a fortnight?
Oh.
So that the community consultation can go ahead as quickly as possible.
can you get that?
So you don't want to make
No, I want to get the names out, the new names, amended names before it goes out for community consultation.
You can't put it out to community consultation with the names that we don't want.
No.
Now, I need a seconder first, and then I can, I think Councillor Davey, you're seconding, and you'd like to speak, councillor, and so would you, councillor Hitchens.
Just have a question.
Davis?
Is it
Yes.
too late to get away from the flowers? Can we change it? I know we made this decision ages ago, or we kind of got rushed through, but I think there's so many better things we could be naming streets after than flowers, like, you know, notable Burnside citizen or the Holt Avenue.
Through me now, I think the issue is here, the recommendations that come to us from that group. So we have a broad policy. I'm not sure. We could suggest, but I'm not sure.
My
I
concern
think it's
is
their
that they're
prerogative.
trying to keep
It's their prerogative.
them all as flora. And that is fairly logical. It's just that we don't agree. I think the time we should have, if we had been going to made an objection on suggesting a totally alternative would probably been last time. Makes sense that they're very small little streets, and it makes sense that those streets all be flora. So I'll seek the mover of motions.
Agree, I think that's been set as a policy.
Yeah.
And I think we'd have to go back and change it if we
Yes,
want to start
we have to,
doing
we have
other
to.
things.
So, Councillor, you're happy, Councillor Lemon, Councillor Davey, you're happy with the motion now as it stands. I've got, you had a question now.
I'll speak now.
No, I had already a second in Councillor Davey. So do you wish to speak anymore? You just asked a question.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'll let you speak now.
Yeah, in my view, I remember this coming to council ages ago, and it went through. In my view, I think that we should be naming it after. I mean, there's so many notable Burnside people, even like our Citizen of the Year last year with Craig Holt. Oh, sorry, year before. You know, we could have a Holt Lane or something like that, and recognise people in our community who've gone to that, you know, that level. I think that that's the way that we name our streets is essentially a story of our history. And if you have a look in the library about all the street names in that collected book of who the streets are named after, it tells that kind of ongoing story of Burnside. So I think that it's a lost opportunity to name them after plants, which doesn't really mean anything to anybody. Whereas this could, you know, this is an opportunity for us to weave history from now into 100 years. So I suppose that's my view. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, if I can get my act together, I might have an alternative motion.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. A question, what type of consultation will we have? Will we, for example, be consulting with Burnside Historical Society about that location? Will they be involved, or is it just
As residents.
or is it just potential residents? But there aren't not many residents there at the moment.
Through me, if I go further to Mr. King.
And my question, sorry, if I can interject to help, was also, sorry.
Let this one be
yeah,
answered
yeah.
while you think about the second
Thank
one, okay? Yes, Mr. Camp?
Through your worship, anyone in the community can obviously have their say. It will be open through the regular channels of consultation. So it isn't just those who will be in
that
website. Yeah, so
Okay.
anyone can respond.
So did you have a second question?
So yes, my question is, then we're going to get value from the consultation, because it's a wide consultation, and the Burnside Historical Society, are they involved in?
Only if they're residents.
If they're only residents, okay, thank you.
Henry, we have to be careful we don't.
Councillor Piggett, you had your hand up next.
It was just, are we comfortable with the motion? Is it going to be sorted out? We're sort of saying we're going to some consultation with the ones we like, and then we're getting to next time. Are we okay with that?
I think, if I may, Mayor, my interpretation of how I enact this is that I won't take any action until I get those other two names, and then we'll go over the package.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are comfortable with that
It might
motion?
take more than 2 weeks.
So you're not bringing it back?
Sorry.
You're not bringing it back to this time?
But, no, as it stands now, I'll have to bring it back.
Okay.
So from tonight, I'll get clarity on the majority. I'll park that. We'll come back once we have the two alternative names to put to council. Council will ideally approve those. Then I'll go out to consult on a package of streets rather than do two consultations.
That would be very sensible. I guess it's only, I wasn't asking for that reason, but it is relevant if Councillor Davis dreams up 8 others that aren't flowers. But what we're doing tonight is agreeing the 6 flowers or whatever it is. And I just think it's a messy motion. You might know, I think we all know what we're agreeing to probably, but it just is a messy motion.
As long as the message is clear to the CEO in terms of the direction he needs to take.
Yeah.
I think that's
Doesn't matter if no one
the
else can
part.
understand it, I guess.
Right, and Councillor Cornish, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could provide some options for names for the,
Is that within our call, Councillor?
Victoria Park has some rare species of native vegetation. The speargrass, early Nancy, tiny star and garland lily. They're very native, and that's that fenced area right in the middle, so people don't kill them.
Yeah.
And given it's so close to Glenside, I propose some of those 4 names perhaps.
Early Nancy trial.
Is that within our call?
I'll send them to the CEO.
So Madam Mayor, what I'll do is when we have a conversation with Cedarwoods, I'll say that, see.
Yep.
I'm certainly keen on native plants. Okay, now, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Oh, Councillor Dawes, sorry, I didn't see you over there.
I can now speak?
Yes?
Yeah. I was caught out by paragraph 11 because it says there are presently no existing roads within the city of Burnside with these same proposed names. And I was going up Kingston Road towards Penfold Road, and I see Wattle Court on the left-hand side. And then through administration, I found there's an Acacia Court as well. And people don't look at Acacia Street, Acacia Avenue, Acacia Road, they see Acacia. So I'm going to add Acacia, if I can, to the motion there that was mentioned earlier by Councillor Lemon. There are a number of roads in Burnside where it's mentioned twice in 2 different suburbs. Bennett, Cedar, Chapel, Cooper, East and Elizabeth. You've seen there's 2 roads called Elizabeth and Burnside. So I've done a bit of work here. But I do understand that in most country towns and cities, you see Main Street, High Streets, there's always going to be some streets that will appear throughout Burnside. But in today's environment, I do like what Councillor Davis said. I like what Councillor Cornish says. Let's try something a little bit different. Let's avoid the confusion for the future. So I don't want someone to type into their GPS Wattle and find themselves in Wattle Park or up in Roslyn Park or something like that. Let's make Cedar aware that, let's have a little bit more creativity with these names, and let's see what we can do. So I'm going to add 3. There's not only Wattle and Huron, and I know that's a Tasmanian pine, but also Acacia. We've got already 1 Acacia, let's not have 2 Acacia.
Yes,
Councillor Lemon, are you happy to just make a
Acacia,
slight
yes.
adjustment, add it? And
And
Councillor Davey is second.
Acacia, yeah.
Add Acacia, you happy, Councillor Davey? So I can add and delete.
Could I ask a question just on that? Is it possible to think of some fauna?
Yes, you can. Sorry, I'm just checking my list.
Thanks. Yes, I haven't spoken. Whether we couldn't consider some of the local fauna and include those names. I mean, I can't think of anything. Kangaroo, that of course. Echidna, we still do have a few echidna in Burnside. They're slowly dying, but if we're looking for alternatives, that might be the way to go. And if we are starting to name people, I think we need to be very consider gender, because with all due respect to the males around the table, we have a lot of parks and reserves and streets already named after male residents.
I think
It's a
one of the
good
criticisms,
opportunity to keep doing it.
Mayors.
one of the criticisms actually at the time when this went through about 6 years ago or 5 years ago was that we didn't use any historic names, and particularly names that were related to the Glenside Hospital itself. So that certainly was quite a criticism at the time of the council, that we went and agreed to trees and bushes rather than looking at significant people who had an association with that site and the historic development of that site. And it was, when you think about it, it was a mental institution that was built on that site. But there were a number of doctors, nurses, etc., who were related to the development and the history of that hospital that I'm sure that, you know, people like the Burnside Historical Society might be keen on, maybe a heritage committee might be interested in, but you know, it's about, as I said before, it might be about consistency, and really they have got the right to make their decision, or got a decision to suggest names to us, and then we say yes or no, even if it takes another attempt. I think Councillor Turnbull, yes, all right, go ahead. And then you can speak because you haven't spoken yet.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree totally with Councillor Davis. If you're going to take 3 out of 8, and that the rest of them are pathetic, Rose Lane, come on, all these things, they've been around forever. Let's be a bit modernistic and maybe a bit respectful to the Aboriginal people, go for the Aboriginal names and make it in that cluster. And so it'll spread, because, you know, we're going to have to acknowledge the Aboriginal people in this area. Pathetic, Rose Lane, come on, Dahlia Lane.
I know, Dahlia Lane.
No, so I suggest that we go back to Aboriginal names. And I agree with Councillor Davis completely. Get rid of the lot.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, if you feel that strongly about it, you need to change your policy.
Yeah. Yes,
Because,
that's
yeah,
right.
Because we're providing a very broad direction
Well,
to our developers.
It does say Aboriginal names, local history.
No, we've got a broad direction, so if you
Oh, yeah.
notice it provides that.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if it's fair to our developers to go back and tell them, because they've got a theme going through the state.
Yeah.
That they've obviously chosen for whatever reason. We could go back, but our policy doesn't really support that at the minute.
We asked for a working group.
To achieve.
Here, we come up with a list of names and we go back to them.
Yeah.
Councillor Henschke, you are next to speak or ask questions.
Speaking, thank you, Nick. I just want to agree with the Chief Executive here on our policy, and also we are really getting involved with the developers' branding that's probably have marketing consultants poring over it, targeting their particular target market. Now, I can see Councillor Carbone nodding there because he's a marketing man, and so I can imagine this wasn't just done at the back of the envelope. It certainly has passed a pub test here or there, so these names are probably, you know, are very important to the developers, and I think we should just respect that. And if we do need to change our policy one day, we want to create a different flavour in the city whenever there's a new development, so be it. But until that's done, I don't think we have any. You know, we need to respect that this is what they want to go forward with for their project. Thank you.
Councillor Piggett, you had your hand up next.
Yep.
But it's just for a question because you've already spoken.
I'm not sure I had. I asked a question, I thought. I asked you whether you were happy with this rubbish motion that's been absolutely chopped to it ever since.
I
But,
didn't put a cue down.
so it might have been. Anyway, I have a question. Sorry,
All right.
I'm being
Turn it into a
argumentative.
question.
Yeah. I was just wanting to clarify could you just catch me up on how we have got here? What what have we told them, and what, you know, what requirements are they meant to fit in with?
Yeah, certainly. Well, actually, now I'll refer to Mr. Camp.
Through your worship. So this is the second time that we have considered naming of streets at Burnside. I think the Mayor mentioned it was a few years ago now. Previously, the naming of public places policy, which is considered in paragraph 14 of the council report, gives the direction for the naming options that are available for developers. Back when they originally suggested the names for the first round stage of the development, council, there was a similar discussion at the time, if I do recall, and however, council agreed with the recommendations that were made at the time. It went for community consultation, and following that round of community consultation, council endorsed that naming structure at the time. So Cedar Woods have come back to us for the second stage now, and they have remained consistent with the policy and also with the naming convention that was approved by council previously.
But the policy does say that we ultimately, even if it does fit in the policy, we can be unhappy with the choices that are fitting. So we're in our rights here. And is it, could it be an option to go back to Cedar Woods? I don't actually particularly buy the importance of the marketing of calling something Rose Lane. I think that actually Peter Cornish has already done better than that from a marketing point of view here in 5 minutes. So, but equally, you know, I don't want to step on their toes either, but would it be an option to go back to Cedar Woods, explain the perhaps frustrations here, and have it looked at in a bit more of a comprehensive way? Could that be an option?
Do you want to make a comment?
Yeah. 3 minutes there. I think that's an option. To go back and ask them to, state the council as a preference. I'd ask you to kind of narrow that for me if I'm to go back to them. What your preference would be. Then I'm more than happy to go back and ask them to reconsider. It's appropriate.
Well, can I ask if you stated, someone stated about the fact that Cedar Woods have, you know, named things after, or perhaps I got that wrong, they've got branding going around the place, but presumably they're not particularly, I mean, they chose to put it after flowers, but that's not necessarily, I guess I'd like to understand that too, understand what they think. It needs to be a two-way conversation. I actually don't want to choose which lot it should go down. I'd like to see the Woods and someone from here to sit down and work out what the issues on both sides are and come up with a recommendation.
That's a question. I think we better finish the questions there.
Fair enough.
Bordering on debating again.
Just to enact this though, because Cedar Woods are obviously they're happy with this. They've picked that for a reason. I think if we're going to go back and say, look, we'd like you to consider another type of naming convention, I think we need to narrow it down. Because I can't go back to them and say, if we don't like flora and fauna, they might come back with mining industrial and the council's thinking something else.
I will speak when it's my turn. Thank you.
That's fine. That would just help me out in terms of enacting it.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Davis, you've spoken, you wish to ask a question.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify regarding our policy. I thought it was wholly within our policy to be able to, like there's a list in it of the different things that we would, I just want to clarify whether we would need to change our policy, because flora and fauna is one of the things, but Aboriginal names, local history, mining, war casualty lists, or other names.
Yeah,
yes.
No, you're quite right. In one vein, you don't. But if a developer comes to you with names that are, say, local history, it then is slightly unusual for the council to say, sorry, we don't like your local history names, we want you to do Aboriginal names.
Yeah.
The policy would, if you really want to look all your streets named, or sorry, have the rest of your streets from now into the future named after, for example, Indigenous and so war and casualty lists, you cut the policy right back and say, they're the two streams we want you to run. So that's the guidance you're giving to the development community.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Councillor Lemon, you have a question?
I do. Can I please ask, these streets, these ones that we've chosen and the ones that have already been named by the developer, who do they belong to at this stage, these unnamed streets?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just have to check the timing of when the assets get handed back to us, whether that's occurred to this point or not. Mr. Cairn, you aware of that?
Through your worship, the streets that were already named have been handed over to us already. I don't believe that the unnamed streets have yet, just a few of them, I believe, but not all.
So I would be correct in assuming that these streets are not our streets anymore. They belong to the developer.
At this point in time,
Yes, thank you.
yes.
Councillor Jones.
Can I ask 3 very quick questions?
Go for it.
New streets can't happen very often in Burnside because we're full. So, one, when was the last time we actually had some new streets outside Glenside? 2, is there any real possibility of ever having any more new streets, short of, selling Hazelwood Park for development? And 3, once these streets are named, can we just change them afterwards if we didn't like them?
Okay, so I think to answer the first question, I think we're in furious agreement that in the city of Burnside, it's highly unlikely we're going to have large tranches of new streets.
Yes.
The second question was,
Is there any, can you think of anywhere you would have a new development?
I think at this point, we'd say
Mr.
no.
Cant's pointing out.
Right. Oh, sorry.
Just Hazelwood, isn't it?
Mr. Cant?
Through your worship, there could be developments in the hills. So, for example, the Borough redevelopment, there was a new road there at one point in Delbridge a few years back as well.
Right. And the third question was,
Can we change
Can we
these?
change the names?
the short answer through Madam Mayor is yes, but it's very difficult and it causes a whole lot of angst to the
absolutely.
residents along that street who have done, setting up all their addressing, etc. So I advise against it.
You buy in Acacia Avenue and you end up in Cornish Street.
And you
One too close.
I know that a young fellow, when I was first elected mayor, wrote me a letter and wanted to change the name of a street. And I did go through the process of inquiring and finding out, and it was a very long, difficult process, and I had to inform this young lad that it was not a good idea and it couldn't happen.
Imagine if everybody on a whim wanted to.
Interesting question. I don't have anyone else with names here, and Councillor Piggott, I'm still not quite sure if you spoke already.
I'm sure you are sure, Lady O'Neill. I'm sure you're sure that I haven't spoken.
Okay.
And if I could.
If anyone objects,
Object.
I object.
Otherwise, I will allow Councillor Piggott because I did not record a Q next to his name. So, Councillor Piggott, off you go.
Okay, thank you. Well, if I could speak to that, because I did ask a number of questions, all of which should have probably got a Q next to my name previously, which did lead down a certain path. And I think the right thing here to do is actually to vote it down and to put in an alternative where we do actually send someone at a senior level, go back to Cedar Woods and explain the problem, share the problem, because I think what's happened here is that I think Councillor Jones is right. This is a very unusual situation. There's not going to be a lot of them. It's an opportunity for both the development and for the council really to get it right. It falls over on a couple of fronts. The wattle is the Councillor Lemon started this charge against them, and she was absolutely right with the 2 she raised. I think the lack of creativity is probably the bit that I don't like so much. I mean, I'd have waved him through, to be honest, before this conversation, but that is the beauty of this system, in that we do have people sitting around looking at it. And so I feel we very much should not push these through to consultation. We should vote this motion down. And I think we can work with Cedar Woods on this. I take the CEO's point about we shouldn't, if they picked flowers and now we're saying it should be something else. I'm happy actually to go back that they stick with flowers, but they do let their imagination run a bit better or do a bit more research. I think it does, you know, I know nothing about flowers, but I probably could have come up with this list today. So I think, I don't wish to be critical of them either, but I think it is an opportunity for the development and for council to actually do some interesting things with those streets. They're only small streets, certainly, but I don't think we lose anything. In fact, I feel if I was Cedar Woods and I was listening into this, I'm sure they probably are, then, you know, perhaps I would like the opportunity to fix some of the issues that have come up tonight, and that would give me the opportunity to do that. So I will vote against it, and I think an alternative to actually engage with Cedar Woods and try and resolve the problem to get a better result.
You would run that motion if this were to lose?
I'd be happy to if no one else was yet. Thank you.
Right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak or ask any questions? I think everyone's spoken.
Yeah.
So I will go back to Councillor Lemon.
Well, goodness me. Who would have thought? So, I get from the room that you're very happy with losing Wattle Street and losing Moon Street. So we've got two issues here. We've got two inappropriate, I consider, and I suspect most people do consider they're inappropriately named streets, as well as potentially other inappropriately named streets. That's one issue. The other issue is, why are we using botanicals? Well, it is an unusual situation, but it was also an unusual situation way back when we gave this list to Cedar Woods when they started their development. And they decided to call their development, in the first instance, Botanica. So it doesn't surprise me that they've actually called the streets after flowers, because Botanica is part of their branding. It was part of their branding. Yeah. So I don't believe we can, in holding our heads in any way whatsoever, go back to them and say, how about you do some Aboriginal names? But that wasn't how they started. And the reality is, these are their streets until they hand them over. They've actually put them together and done everything until it comes to us to look after. So I think, but having said that, I also think that somebody's come up with a very hurried list of names and sent them off to us, and I agree, they're boring, really boring. But I think that we can engage with them. I do hope you support this motion. I don't think we need a different motion. This motion is fine. As much as Councillor Piggett says it's the dog's breakfast, I actually think this will give us what we want, and that is our CEO will go back to Cedar Woods and say, these two streets stink. We want you to change them. He will give Councillor Cornish's list of interesting plants. He will actually mention to the people that make these decisions, council thinks that you make very boring decisions for your flora, and can you actually raise the bar somewhat in terms of native plants for the area? And I think doing that will actually meet everybody's needs, including the developers. Now, I'm no fan of developers, but I think to change the rules 5-6 years up the track, after a whole heap of names that streets have already been named, is seriously unfair. And I would not suggest that we do that. That makes us difficult in the extreme. So I'm really asking you to support this motion as it is, because I think it works. I think our CEO can go back to Cedar Woods and say, not good enough, try again. Very willing to go with flora that is a bit more innovative and a little bit more localised. So I hope you support it.
Thank you. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And I'm sure that Cedar Woods will come back to us with a much more interesting native. Yeah, they should. And I do take your point, Councillor Lemon, and I think that is a very good one to bring up for us all to understand, and that is that they were selling that property as Cedar Woods Botanica, or Glenside Botanica, and it does make a lot of sense.
Helps when they don't.
All right, so Now, we need to move to the page 193. Okay, so this is the officer's recommendation number 15. Councillor Cornish, you happy to move it? You don't wish to speak? Is anyone who would like to second this motion, please? Page 193. It puts all four of those reports together. And allows us to vote on them all at once. Councillor Levin?
If you're going to put all this, you're talking about all of them, including Eastern Regional Alliance?
Yes.
I'd just like to speak.
But that's okay, if we just need a seconder and then we can open up for a discussion.
I'll second.
So you'll second it, Councillor Lambert, okay, and you now can speak.
Thank you very much. I would draw members' attention to page 319, where you get item 5.3 from the Eastern Regional Alliance. And it's really worth reading. This has been put together by Stephen Smith, a planning reform partner. And this actually looks at the current code, what's wrong with it. It talks about fees and charges, and I hadn't read about fees and charges prior to reading this piece of paper. And it talks about how the government's seeking to double dip. So I actually very, very much recommend this little item to you to keep up to speed with what's happening and what's really what we're doing and what ERA is doing in terms of the new code, the new planning code. Excellent piece of work.
And I might add that talking with Matt Pinniger from the LGA last night, it is very clear that Minister and Deputy Premier Vicky Chapman is listening very carefully and very closely to the suggestions that are coming through the LGA, through Garrick and through mayors across the state. So that was a very positive message that I received last night. Yes,
yeah, I'd just like to speak to that too, and thank the LGA for really advocating for many councils and organisations who have said the same thing in this paper. And I also wanted to point out that item 4, infill development, and the outcomes sought very clearly from the LGA, item B, about the State Planning Commission preparing a new state planning policy for infill development under that Act. And I think that is excellent. Thank you.
And I might just add too that the mayors of all the metropolitan councils are attempting at the moment to put together a letter in relation to trees and the concern and issue about trees with the state planning rules as well. And that's will be going to the local government minister probably within a week. It's got full consensus from all metropolitan mayors so far. He's up in Adelaide. Councillor Davey, your question or comment?
Just a couple of questions. Just following on from what you've said, that's a great initiative. Yeah. Is that originated by the councils or the mayors or
mayors?
The CEO through ERA or
no? This is all the mayors. It's actually initiated through the Mayor of Mitchell, and she has encouraged all, written to all of the mayors and asked them to support the letter and be partner to that letter.
Thank you. Yes, my question is still on ERA, Eastern Regional Alliance, and I noticed the action list, and this is changing now from planning, is a possible regional approach to e-scooters. And I just wondered, it's going to be discussed, well, it was discussed.
I can report on that. It was deferred from that particular meeting. We had 2 guest speakers at the last ERA meeting, so it was deferred yet again. So ERA itself has not discussed e-scooters as an enterprise that we might, as a group, enter into. A couple of the councils within ERA have made a commitment, then one has withdrawn from that commitment. So I'll leave it now for our CEO to expand on that.
Through Madam Mayor, I've made it pretty clear here that the City of Burnside is not interested in having scooters scattered over their footpaths. So unless council wants to tell me otherwise, that's the direction I'm pushing.
That was going to be my next question, to be in a position.
That's why I left it to Chris, because
Yes,
We just haven't had the meeting. There are some councils that are keen on the idea and are trialling it. Obviously, the North Painters and Piggers are trialling it, and so West Torrens. The purpose and the reason for it is across West Torrens is the beach, and using them as a scooting along there. And for North Painters and Piggers, it's access into and from the city. So there are different issues specifically to those that have currently agreed on a trial. All right, any other questions? Oh, it's Councillor Turnbull.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask a question. Is it possible to have a workshop to update us all on Era Water? We had one last year, but it's a long time ago now, and things seem to have changed. It's quite a concerning report, and I wondered if there's a space in the workshop calendar for us to have one. We can ask questions, basically.
Okay. And Councillor Dawes, you have a question? The answer is yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I feel like if I don't say something now about Era Water, we'll get lost as the months go by. But first, I just want to acknowledge Councillor Hughes and Councillor Piggett. I know they're doing a lot of work in trying to resolve the ongoing design and financial issues besetting Era Water, and I'm glad they're there. But my chief concern, and you've read it in the papers, is the reference that Era Water is expecting to exceed its debt limit in mid-2021. And I do recall the debate we had going back over a year ago, where we thought this would be the last time we would give them any more money. I just want to make it clear that I just will not support any increase in the debt limit. I think I have to say that. And I do say that because I think our residents would just like to know what on earth is happening here. And I say it in this particular context. Already the audit committee has asked for justification for the bore connection, and that was seen as a bit of a saviour for Era Water in the long term. The available water supply volume will be less than the target value, the volume of 324 megalitres, and that's almost certain to occur. That is stated in there. There's a further 18% reduction in the SA water price, which affects our Era Water price. It does mean our annual revenue will be reduced by $250,000, and our revenue is around about the $1 million mark, so that's a significant reduction. And in Budget Review 1, which is after the 30th of September, which is coming up, there are significant changes, some positive, but mainly negative. So things don't look rosy there for Era Water. Now, I remember, I think I said we were on a yellow light 12 months ago. Well, at the moment, I think we've nearly reached the red light. And I just feel there's a fiscal responsibility here. I know there's an environmental responsibility as well, but there's a fiscal responsibility on this council to ensure that we don't go further into debt. I just want to say that tonight, and residents who are listening, please read these papers because they are vital for us as to what the next step is for us in regards to the future viability of Era Water. Thank you, Nick.
Councillor Piggott.
Question. Given what Councillor Dawes just raised, I've got a question to the CEO through you. What do you think we as a council, assuming council concurs with that sentiment, we should do? Is there anything we should do tonight in regard to indicating Burnside's, not necessarily position, but is there anything that you feel should happen tonight as a basis of Councillor Dawes, or considered, not necessarily happen, considered?
Through Madam Mayor, I'd encourage council not to make any decisions this evening, just based on that report. I'd like you to receive a report, perhaps deliberately, articulating financial position, direction, etc., a more targeted report and reward. If you're looking to make some decisions around our approach in the future. So I wouldn't make it tonight.
They can't make it tonight,
We,
oh, if they wanted to put a
you
motion.
can move any motion.
Yeah.
If you wished. But I'd
Should
like
we request such a report?
I'm happy for the council to request for me to provide you with maybe it's a position paper on your water for your consideration. But I encourage you not to make any swift decisions this evening. My thoughts.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone wish to ask any more questions or make any further comments about any of those reports? Otherwise, I shall go back to Councillor Cornish who moved the motion. You don't wish to say anything, so all those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Now we move to, there is nothing from Brownhill Creek.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
could I, perhaps not the right time, but I feel we should run a motion along the lines of what CEO just articulated.
Petition paper.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, do it anytime you like, but
Just run it in other business.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, in number
Sorry.
19. Yeah. I just want to make a couple of minor amendments to the Mayor's report. Just wording that I didn't pick up when I reread it. Attendance as guests at Adelaide Central School of Art. Could you, and I know Rob has already altered this on the one that's online, degrees, not certificates. I don't want to underwrite or under reflect the importance. There were degrees and honorary and honours degrees that were being presented. And the other one was, it wasn't the final match between Burnside and Old Collegians rugby clubs. It was the final minor round match because they're both in the finals. And again, I don't want to insult either of those clubs in relate by having that formally in print. So I just want to make those minor alterations.
I just had a question, yes, ma'am. I was interested, there was a Zoom meeting by the LGA in which the opposition had postulated their views on the planning and reform in South Australia, and I just wondered what.
Do you want to answer that one? I'll let the CEO. We have similar views of that particular event.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'll contest this by saying it was excellent that the opposition were taking the time to engage with local government, but the amount of information that was provided on that evening was next to zero. In fairness to the opposition, they had received the summary of the changes that were proposed to legislation half an hour prior to the briefing they had with us. So they really weren't able to formulate their opinions and thoughts on the paper. So it was really just a broad conversation. They introduced us to the new Shadow Minister of Local Government, Jane Stinson. On face value, she seemed like she should be good to work with, and supportive of local government as a level of government. But it was very much just a general conversation.
And Mayor's just and CEO's just asked questions that have already been asked of every other politician at every one of these other Zoom meetings in the past and got somewhat similar answers. So.
It was marketed as them giving us their position.
Yes.
So we were all quite intrigued as to where their thoughts lay. But unfortunately, the timing didn't really allow them to formulate that well.
Is it any, somebody else had a hand up, I thought. No?
I was going to move the one.
Okay, you move it. Thank you, Councillor Davis. And seconded by Councillor Dawes. All those in favour? Carried. Okay. Now, it's other business. So now's your opportunity if you wish to move a motion to provide some direction to the CEO.
And if it was the mind that Councillor Dawes would like to do it, I'd very much stand aside.
No, I'll second.
In fact, I'm on the audit committee, that's all. All right, yep. Could I move the fact that the council requests that the chief executive provide a report in respect to Vera Water detailing its current position?
Progress.
Financial.
I think keep it general. I'm sure you won't miss the financial part.
Yeah, that's right.
position of Era Water as it currently stands. So,
What, can I suggest a wording?
Please.
That see if there a position report with respect to Era Water covering off on all relevant.
Full stop, water,
Yeah.
full stop.
For
presentation to.
Yeah. Position paper by definition is a broad document and I'll encapsulate all the areas.
Presentation to council. So
That
that says you produce it and you just put it in your bottom
Or
drawer.
it can be an info doc,
financial,
it doesn't have to be council.
take out
An
financial.
info doc.
All right, finish your water.
And but when we need to time out.
Here we are, you'll do it, good.
Financial position of. Take out.
That's position paper
Just a position paper.
on
With respect to
On Era Water, yeah. Yeah, with respect to the position. Position report on Era Water.
Sorry.
With respect to.
With respect to Era Water.
I'm happy to move that.
No, not presentation to council. Because it can come via info doc potentially, so you just full stop after Era Water.
My understanding
Is that what you asked?
my understanding is to report to council.
Yes,
Yeah.
is that what you?
Is that what you want?
Well, I think that's what he.
I think that's also what
Chris
Councillor Piggott
implied.
and Councillor Dawes is
So,
implied.
councillor Dawes is keen to move that.
Council. Right, Councillor Piggott has moved it, Councillor Dawes is seconding. Any other discussion on it before?
But perhaps if I could speak to it.
Oh, yes,
If I am
of course.
moving it, I was looking to duck out of moving it because I am on the audit committee, so I'm sort of both sides of this argument a bit. I think it's very hard to get a grasp of what's going on from the minutes and the actually quite a lot of information that comes through to us as a council. So for Chris to put it in a format that hits the highlights, Councillor Dawes' concerns, of course, are not invalid. They are in the report that we have. So I feel it's absolutely appropriate he raises it, and I think it's appropriate that this council. I think it is being the sentiments, not necessarily about no more money. That's a question for when we actually have to have it, if we do have to have it. But in terms of the issues around Era Water, Sarah and I have been conveying that at the various tables we sit at, but it's actually more straightforward. And I think it is good if this council, as a council, gets as well informed as possible directly from the CEO and then decides what it should do in terms of what message it conveys to the subsidiary. So from that point of view, I think it's good that Councillor Dawes raised it, and I think it's a good thing to get.
Right, I'll seek those to support the motion.
Sorry.
Oh, do you want, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
No, it's a bit late. It's
Oh, I missed it.
because
Sorry.
Actually, my
Councillor
first
Piggott was summarising.
Okay.
No reason why you can't ask the question to the CEO. That's not.
Wasn't that the speech proposed with the motion?
Sorry,
that was a summary.
No, it was summarising.
Actually, I thought it was proposed.
Because they've gone around and already asked
No,
everybody if they
definitely
want to
summary.
comment.
Oh, cool.
Can you tell me about it? Oh, that was his moving contract. I apologise, Councillor Piggott.
No,
Because we'd had this conversation, I thought you'd already proposed it.
Well, we'd sort of got
spoken.
He does talk.
Okay.
He gets me to speak again. Why is she apologising?
So now I can take the question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So
Apologies to you.
No, that's all right.
We'll get there.
I'll find out, but it's all right. My question, thank you, Mayor, is will this position, through the Mayor, to the administration, will this position paper start from the beginning and to where we are now? What I mean by the beginning is when this project was first, business case was tabled and the council approved a particular business case. And then we eventually got to building it. And then we, the audit committee, I recall, with the Mayor, I recall we moved the motion that there should be an independent peer review of the project to see if we realised the benefits of the project. And so then that became the Tonkin report. So my question is, will we be starting at the beginning and then getting to the time for report and saying this is what they found and here we are? So we're tracking what we thought we were going to build and what we've got. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, obviously I haven't quite formulated my approach, but one thing it will have, I won't be doing an exhaustive history component, but it will, which is entirely relevant, it will have some short commentary on the history, because the reasons for forming area are important in making decisions about its future. So I will comment on that, but it won't be an exhaustive.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones and then Councillor Turnbull.
Can I ask 2 questions? One, will you cover what are our realistic options? Because we can dwell on the past, but it's kind of a waste of time. We all know what we feel about the past. We need to know what we're going to do about it. Secondly, we have the issue that we have, we own this with 2 other councils. Does this need to be confidential to this council alone? In that we might need to be thinking about our negotiating position, and other councils will have different views. Our financial position is stronger than some other councils, for example.
Can I just mention that I just feel we ought to be in confidence all of a sudden.
Let's just wait for
What's the question?
No, about what we're talking about. I just think.
I don't think it's gone over the line in relation to confidentiality. It's more likely to, if a report is, when the report is written, if it requires us to go to confidential mode for that discussion about that report, that point in time may be relevant.
I agree. 3 minutes. How many agrees? To answer your first question, yes, I think it will. Look at future options. When I'm writing a report, I'll have regard for whether we need to have that in confidence. My thoughts are that we will be, because we will be talking about information and confidence matters. And I will be trying to have regard for perhaps the other councils' public positions around. Okay.
Councillor Turnbull, sorry, you still keen.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it possible to have an amendment to the motion that we do have a workshop? The report's fine. We need an opportunity to ask questions of the people, all of us. Can we add that in as an amendment?
Through Madam Mayor, my suggested approach to the council would be that, preempting the report, that it will need to be in confidence, and when we're in confidence, we take the opportunity to suspend standing orders and to enable us to have a broad conversation on it. I think that would work okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to make any comment or ask any further questions? All right, then I will go back to Councillor Piggott.
I'm good,
again.
thank you.
You okay, Councillor Piggott, for me to put the motion now? Right, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? Carried. All right, I think.
Sorry, can I
No
just
comment.
ask a bit?
Other business?
When do you envisage that report would come to us? Sorry to put you on the spot. I mean, is it before Christmas?
Look, I'll give it undertaking that I'll get it to council as in an expedient manner. I'm not going to delay it. So the first opportunity I'll give it to council. But honestly, myself, not just yet. That's okay.
Okay.
As soon as practicable. Any other business? Right, no confidential items, and I close the meeting at 8:42. What is that clock? And my computer. Yeah, 8:42. And thank you very much for your attendance.